Namaskar. Today is the 13th August 2022. In another 2 days, we will be celebrating the completion of 75 years Platinum Jubilee of our Independence Day that happened on 15th August 1947. So 15th August 2022, we will be completing the Platinum Jubilee of India's independence. On this historic occasion of India's independence, I wish everyone a very happy Independence Day. Let us strive to make our nation proud. Jai Hind, Bharat Mata ki Jai. Now, I'm going to take you on a journey of the history of India's struggle for freedom from 1857 to 1947. Salute our great Indian leaders, freedom fighters, martyrs that gave us freedom on 15th August 1947. We are celebrating 75 years of India's independence. Battle of Plassey. This is where it began on 23rd June 1757. Robert Clive defeated Nawab Sirajuddaulah of Bengal with the connivance of the Nawab's commander Mir Jafar, and with that began the saga of 190 years of British rule in India from 1757 to 1947. The British Governor Generals, first belonging to the East India Company and then to the British Crown, came up with various policies that were detrimental to the interest of our country. One such policy was initiated by Lord Dalhousie of the doctrine of lapse. Any ruler that died without a male heir, his kingdom lapsed to the British East India Company. (1857), I would say, as Savarkar describes it, as Veer Savarkar describes it, as the first war of independence that was led by Mangal Pandey. The British had greased the cartridges with cow and pig flesh. The cartridges to load the bullet had to be bitten off. Thus, an affront to the Hindus and Muslims. And Mangal Pandey blew the first bugle of revolt in 1857. Eventually, he was hanged, and Mangal Pandey was one of the first martyrs in India's struggle for freedom. Salute to Mangal Pandey. रानी लक्ष्मीबाई of Jhansi. मैं अपनी झांसी नहीं दूंगी. She rebelled against the British and challenged them and died a hero's death. As Hugh Rose said, she was the bravest of them all. Our salute to the Rani of Jhansi for her valor and fortitude. Tatya Tope, Begum Hazrat Mahal, Bahadur Shah Zafar, the last of the Mughal emperors. The revolt of 1857 had lit the torch of freedom. On 28th December 1885, in a meeting in Bombay, the Indian National Congress was founded by a British Alan Octavian Hume to play as a safety valve to the British, and Dadabhai Nauroji, Dinshaw Vacha, a Goan, Kashinath Trimbak Telan, Firoz Shah Mehta, Badruddin Tyabji, Gopal Krishna Gokhale were all the founders of the Indian National Congress that fought for India's freedom from the British rule. This is a picture of the first meeting held in Bombay under the presidency of Umesh Chandra Banerjee on 28 December 1885. The Indian National Congress believed in petitioning the British government to ventilate their grievances, to redress their grievances, and involve more Indian participation in the functioning of the government. Gopal Krishna Gokhale was one of the tall leaders of the Indian National Congress. The great Indian leader Lokmanya Tilak felt that the Indian National Congress was soft peddling the British, and he called for action. He roared, "Swaraj is my birthright and I shall have it." Along with Lala Lajpat Rai and Bipin Chandra Pal, they formed the famous trinity Lal Bal Pal. Aurobindo Ghosh also was an advocate of action. There was a split in the Indian National Congress in the Naram Dal led by Dadabhai Nauroji, Gopal Krishna Gokhale, Surendranath Banerjee, Badruddin Tyabji, Firoz Shah Mehta, and the action-oriented, the extremists, the Garam Dal led by Lokmanya Tilak, Lala Lajpat Rai, Bipin Chandra Pal, and various others. This split took place in Surat, the port town of Gujarat. There were many revolutionaries, young revolutionaries, that sacrificed their life to give us freedom. One such great revolutionary, an unsung hero, was Anant Kanhere. On 21st December 1909, he shot at the collector of Nasik. The revolutionary movement had begun. With leaders such as Vasudev Balwant Phadke, that led an armed struggle to overthrow the British Raj. He rallied the tribal communities such as the Kols, the Bills, the Dhangars into a revolutionary group of the Ramoshis and led an armed struggle against the British. Our salute to Vasudev Balwant Phadke, an unsung hero in India's struggle for freedom. Due to the revolutionary activities and activities of the Indian National Congress, the British were alarmed. Lord Curzon came up with a draconian plan of dividing Bengal into two. The Hindu-dominated West Bengal, and he created an Eastern Bengal where Muslims were in a majority. This was the divide and rule policy followed by the British. The Indian revolutionaries, the Indian leaders led a Swadeshi movement in Bengal against the partitioning of Bengal. Finally, the partition of Bengal that was communal based was annulled by the British. Several young men and women sacrificed their life for India's freedom. Shishir Kumar Banerjee was a 16-year-old martyr in India's struggle for freedom, wherein he was shot dead. KHUDIRAM Bose, the 18-year-old boy in Bengal, was hanged for his revolutionary activities. Madan Lal Dhingra, while studying in England, he assassinated William Curzon Whaley, a British officer. Salute to Madan Lal Dhingra for his act of valor. The Swadeshi movement, as I said, was launched against the partitioning of Bengal. The slogan was Buy Swadeshi, Go Swadeshi, Bonfire of British goods, British cloth. The British were exploiting India economically, politically. Lokmanya Tilak, Bankim Chandra Chatterjee. Bankim Chandra Chatterjee wrote the novel Anand Math, and he gave us the revolutionary song in 1878, a song that salutes our motherland, our mother India, as Vande Mataram. Lala Lajpat Rai, the Lion of Punjab, Aurobindo Ghosh, these were the leaders of the Swadeshi movement. Lokmanya Tilak had said Swaraj is his birthright, and he started the Home Rule movement. Dr. Mrs. Annie Besant joined him in launching the whole Home Rule movement all over India in the year 1916. Simultaneously, revolutionary activities were going on, led by great revolutionaries such as Chandrasekhar Azad, Ram Prasad Bismil, Ashfaqullah Khan, Rajendra Lahiri, the Kakori Kand. The British dismissed it as a conspiracy. It took place on 9th August 1925 when the Hindustan Socialist Republican Army led by Chandrasekhar Azad attacked the railway carrying British arms and ammunitions. Yet another tall leader was Vinayak Damodar Savarkar, an exemplary poet that invoked India as his mother and wrote a ode to her while in jail. In London, there was India House, a conglomeration of Indian revolutionaries such as Savarkar, Shyamji Krishna Varma. In the early years of India's independence movement, one cannot forget the contribution of Madam BHIKAJI CAMA, a Parsi lady. She was in touch with the revolutionaries in London and in Stuttgart in Germany. She was the first to unfurl the flag of India's freedom with Vande Mataram written on it. Salute to the action of Madam BHIKAJI CAMA. The darkest side of British rule was unfolded on 13th April 1919 at the Jallianwala Bagh, abetting the Golden Temple in Amritsar, where Dyer, the British officer, shot at the unarmed people that had gathered to protest against the Rowlatt Act passed by the British, curbing their civil liberties, curbing public speech, and throwing into jail anybody without any trial, any Indian without any trial. Dyer blocked the entrance of the Jallianwala Bagh, wherein the public meeting was held, and shot dead indiscriminately on the unarmed crowd till the last bullet was exhausted from his army. Women and children, young and old men, sacrificed their life, became martyrs at Jallianwala Bagh. We salute all these martyrs. We also salute the patriotic spirit of Udham Singh that avenged the death of thousands of people, of his brethren at the Jallianwala Bagh, by shooting down the governor, Dyer, that had given orders to General Dyer. There were two Dyers, and Udham Singh shot dead the governor, Dyer, in March 1940. The era of Lokmanya Tilak ended with his death on 1st August 1920, and it was that very day that Gandhiji launched his first major movement against the British rule in India, called the non-cooperation movement. Gandhiji had experimented with a unique way of fighting British imperialism, colonialism, and racial prejudice. It was called the Satyagraha, Satyacha Agraha, holding onto the truth till the last breath of his life. In South Africa, a colony of the British, in 1915, Mahatma Gandhi arrived in India and sought political advice from his political guru Gopal Krishna Gokhale, who prevailed upon him to tour the country to get apprised with the functioning of the British rule in India. Gandhiji travelled throughout India, and then he launched himself in the struggle for freedom in Champaran, in Kheda, in Ahmedabad, taking up cudgels in a non-violent and truthful manner against the British rule. Between 1920 and 1922, he launched his non-cooperation movement with the British. He appealed to the Indians to stop cooperating with the British, to boycott foreign goods, to boycott courts, to boycott schools and colleges, to boycott the educational system of the British, to boycott the titles, and to non-cooperate with the British in all walks of life. Gandhiji had arrived on the freedom scene of India. Simultaneously, we have various leaders such as Motilal Nehru, Vittalbhai Patel, Deshbandhu Chittaranjan Das, founding the Swaraj Party on 1st January 1923. Because Gandhiji had withdrawn the non-cooperation movement following the violent action at Chauri Chaura. Chittaranjan Das and Motilal Nehru did not appreciate the calling of the non-cooperation movement. Hence, they founded the Swaraj Party to contest elections and wreck the constitution from within. In 1928, to ventilate the grievances of the Indian people, to make a show that they were ventilating the grievances of the Indian people, the British government appointed a commission under the chairmanship of John Simon. Having found that no Indian was represented on it, wherever the commission went, it was greeted with black flags. One such visit procession was in Lahore, showing black flags to the British, to the commission, with the words "Simon, go back" written on it. The slogan of "Simon, go back" reverberated throughout the country. One such procession, Lala Lajpat Rai, the leader of that procession, was grievously injured by a British officer. To avenge the death of Lalaji, the Hindustan Socialist Republican Party, Army, Naujawan Bharat Sabha member, the firebrand, young Bhagat Singh and his comrades shot at a British officer that they eventually found was not the right person. Accidentally, they shot by misunderstanding, they shot at the 21-year-old Saunders. Bhagat Singh felt a remorse for his action. As the revolutionary movement led by Bhagat Singh, Rajguru, Chandrasekhar Azad, Sukhdev, and many others was going on, Gandhiji launched his second major movement against the British, the civil disobedience movement. The salt satyagraha, to break the salt monopoly of the British, a tax that the British had imposed on the production, manufacture and of salt, an essential commodity in food. Gandhiji launched his protest by marching from the Sabarmati Ashram in Ahmedabad on 12th March 1930 to Dandi to make salt and break the salt monopoly of the British, to protest against the unjust salt tax. On 6th April 1930, along with Sarojini Naidu and many others, Gandhiji broke the salt law by making salt on the shores of Dandi. A pinch of salt shakes an empire, wrote a British journalist. Women also participated in India's struggle for freedom. One such great freedom fighter was Mrs. Sarojini Naidu, addressed as the Nightingale of India because she was one of the finest poets of India. She wrote beautiful lyrics, beautiful poetry. Sarojini Naidu was first in so many cases. She was the first Indian woman to be the president of the Indian National Congress. After independence of India, she was the first woman governor of any Indian state. She inspired many women to join the freedom struggle on the inspiration of Gandhiji. On 27 February 1931, Chandrasekhar Azad, the brave young martyr in India's freedom movement, shot himself dead instead of falling into the hands of the British, while the British besieged the Allahabad Park in which Chandrasekhar Azad had stationed himself. With the last bullet remaining, he shot himself dead and attained supreme martyrdom. He wrote, "मैं आजाद हूँ, आजाद रहूंगा." On 23rd March 1931, Bhagat Singh, Rajguru and Sukhdev were hanged at the age of 22-23. With a smile on his lips, Bhagat Singh went to the gallows along with his comrades with the slogan of "Inqilab Zindabad, सरफरोशी की तमन्ना आज हमारे दिल में है." They went to the gallows and sacrificed their precious young lives for the freedom of India. A big salute to Bhagat Singh, Rajguru, Sukhdev and Chandrasekhar Azad. On 8th August 1942, Gandhiji launched the Quit India movement. Karo ya maro was his slogan. On the Gwalior Tank Maidan, Bombay, Gandhiji along with Vallabhbhai Patel, Rajendra Prasad, Maulana Azad, Jawaharlal Nehru, Sarojini Naidu, Kripalani, Khan Abdul Ghaffar Khan launched the Quit India movement. On 9th August 1942, all these leaders were arrested. Aruna Asaf Ali unfurled the Indian flag on the Gwalior Tank Maidan. An underground radio station was ran by Achyut Patwardhan, Usha Mehta and others. Dr. Ram Manohar Lohia and many Goans participated in the Quit India movement, such as Purushottam Kakodkar. The Second World War was going on, and the brilliant, fiery leader Netaji Subhash Chandra Bose took on the leadership of AZAD HIND FAUZ from Captain Mohan Singh and Raj Bihari Bose, the founders of the AZAD HIND FAUZ. He also created a Rani of Jhansi regiment under the leadership of Captain Lakshmi Sehgal. Netaji Subhash Chandra Bose led a movement, brilliant movement, and he was the first to plant the Indian tricolor on 30th December 1943 by liberating Andaman Islands from the control of the Japanese. He led a brilliant movement on 14th April 1944, Netaji had planted Indian flag once again in a village near Manipur. Netaji Subhash Chandra Bose and his revolutionary army created that fire in the belly of every Indian that clamored for freedom, freedom from the British rule. तुम मुझे खून दो, मैं तुम्हें आजादी दूंगा, was his slogan. Negotiations with the British were failing. The earlier Cripps proposals, Gandhiji said, were like a blank check. Wavell plan, all plans were failing. Indian leaders of the Indian National Congress, such as Gandhiji, Maulana Azad, Vallabhbhai Patel, Lal Bahadur Shastri, Rajendra Prasad, were negotiating with the British. And Gandhiji had demanded the British to quit India. Finally, with the connivance of Jinnah, one of the leaders of the Muslim League, had demanded the creation of a separate Islamic state of Pakistan. Gandhiji tried to convince Jinnah. However, Jinnah was adamant. Mountbatten, that proved to be the last viceroy of India, came with his plan of dividing India into two. Muslim majority Pakistan and the Hindu majority Bharat, India, on 3rd June 1947. Finally, 75 years ago, the golden day had arrived. On 15th August 1947, India was independent from the British rule. At a stroke of the midnight hour, when the world sleeps, India awakes to light and freedom, said Jawaharlal Nehru, who became the first Prime Minister of independent India. Today, we are celebrating the Platinum Jubilee, the Azadi Ka Amrut Mahotsav of our great motherland, India's, Bharat's independence. Jai Hind, Bharat Mata Ki Jai.
जनगण मन अधिनायक जय हे भारत भाग्य विधाता पंजाब सिंध गुजरात मराठा द्राविड उत्कल बंगा विंध्य हिमाचल यमुना गंगा उच्चल जलधि तरंगा तव शुभ नामे जागे तव शुभ आशीष मांगे गाहे तव जय गाथा जन गण मंगलदायक जय हे भारत भाग्य विधाता जय हे जय हे जय हे जय 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 हे